So the second thing I wanted to talk about is branding the library. And what I mean by that is if you ask 10 people what a library is all about, 9.5 of them are going to say books, of course. But what is a book? A book is just a medium for exchange of ideas and information and knowledge. So is a magazine, so is a newspaper, so is an e-book, a CD book, audio materials, art, music, games, websites, databases. They're all media for exchanging ideas. And the library has all of those things and more. So what I would suggest, instead of focusing on books, is to label ourselves as the Center for Free Choice Learning. Anybody can come into the public library at any stage of their lives and look up anything they want. They can pursue knowledge. They can learn new things. That's the kind of thing that a public library could really own, a phrase like that, the Center for Free Choice Learning. So this campaign that you're doing now, the I read, therefore, that's just brilliant. I love that. I've walked around the public libraries in Lexington, and I see that people are, you can learn to read, you can learn to speak English or French, you can take a variety of computer classes, learn to knit, do yoga, trace your family history. All kinds of things are going on here. So I would suggest a similar campaign, something along the lines of, what do you want to learn today? And that's something that Lexington can do to reinforce its role as the center for self-directed, lifelong, free choice learning among its citizens. So as libraries are facing difficult economic times, we're turning more and more towards our communities. We're increasing our partnerships. We're looking at ways to expand our use of volunteers. And we're building more relationships with our library supporters. So, in partnerships, often in the past, what a library partnership meant was, hi, I'm Anne, I work with the library, and I've developed this really great idea for a program that I want to do at the library. Now, it's all planned out, so I don't need your input, but I'd really like it if you'd be my partner and give me some money to put it on. Now, that might be a good way to get money for your programs. It's not really a partnership. The essence of a partnership is that it's mutually beneficial to both parties, or it pursues a common goal. And I can give you a really good example just outside the door here, the Good Foods Chapter 2. The Good Foods people had an interest in sustainable agriculture, promoting healthy eating among the citizens in Lexington, and the library had an interest in providing a nice amenity to their downtown customers and staff. So together, the Good Foods Chapter 2 Cafe is a great partnership. It provides benefit to both sides, and everybody else gets to join in that benefit. So that's the kind of partnership that I think is worth pursuing, that we really need to focus on things that cement us to our communities and benefit both parties. So libraries have always been big users of volunteers. We really depend on our volunteers now more than ever. What we're seeing, though, is that volunteers these days, especially the boomers, are looking for a meaningful volunteer experience. They don't want to just come in and clean books for us, or put shelving carts in order. They want something that really makes use of their life experiences and their knowledge. I recently attended a 2-day institute sponsored by the California State Library, and the whole focus of this institute was how we can better use our volunteers and create a meaningful volunteer experience for them. So we looked at ways to analyze our gaps, find places that we can use volunteers to complement, not replace, the work of paid staff. And then we learned how to create an appropriate job announcement, if you will, something that will bring in the caliber of volunteers that we want, with the idea being that the volunteers are important, they're a vital part of our operations. We need to treat them exactly the same as we would treat paid staff. And that means that you interview and select only the volunteers that match what you need. You're not just going to take anybody who walks through the door. Once you've selected your volunteers, then you're going to give them appropriate training. You're going to make sure they understand the expectations of the job. They have the resources they need to complete the job. And at the end of the job, they get a job evaluation so that they know that they've done a good job for you. And we find a lot of times people are in between employment situations, and so they'll come to the library to do something really meaningful, and in return, they're asking for a letter of recommendation. That's a fair trade. You know, they do good work for us, they get a good recommendation. We have been using volunteers in a variety of ways in my library in Alameda County. So what we've been doing since coming back from the Institute, my volunteer team and I have looked at ways that we can make some higher level use of some of our volunteers. So right now we have one who is designing a filing system for our Extension Services office. And we have one who's doing a usability study for our website. Thank you. It's long overdue. And we have one, actually several, who are helping us plan the 100th anniversary celebration of county libraries in California, which is coming up this October. So that's the kind of thing I would want to be encouraging Lexington staff to do, to really make use of their volunteers. I see that you've got a volunteer coordinator for each branch, and I think that's a great thing because, you know, we know that the volunteer experience is a very local thing. People want to work for their library and help their neighborhood. So those are things that we definitely want to continue and expand and keep thinking about ways to make this a better proposition. Okay, and then we also need to talk about advocacy and the relationship that we have with our library supporters. There was an interesting study done by the Urban Libraries Council called From Awareness to Funding. They found that there's actually kind of a disconnect between library users and library supporters. The ones we would call our super supporters, the ones who always support the library, may not necessarily use the library, but they do believe in the power of libraries for the common good. We don't really have to worry too much about them because we've got their support no matter what. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there are the people who don't use the library, don't think it's important, they don't believe in the social benefits of libraries. And again, we don't really have to worry about them too much because no matter what we do, they're not going to be with us. But there's this whole great big group in the middle, the people who use the library, but maybe they don't think about where the money comes from or what the political realities are. So those are people we have to keep in front of. We have to really keep the library in their consciousness all the time. You know, Lexington Public Library has been wonderful at that. You've done amazing work with the I Love My Library campaign, with the library card commercials, and the Friends of the Library book sale videos on YouTube. They're just great. What I would suggest is that that kind of thing has to continue because advocacy is not something that you can turn on when you need it, when times are tough, and then you turn it off when you feel flush. It's a continuous process. You have to always be in the forefront of people's consciousness. That's where it's so important that librarians are out in their communities. They're forming these alliances. They're joining civic groups, making the relationship between the library and the community so that they're always thinking about us. You know, we're there, we're part of things. What we do is transparent. We're not hiding what we do or how we do it, and we're partners. We're always joining people so that when times are tough, they will be there to support us. When times are not tough, they'll be there to support us. And they'll always remember what life would be like if they didn't have a public library. That's a pretty sad thing to think about. So I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to entertain your questions.